Here's what happened. That person that you have known for so many years, even your entire life, maybe, you have finally had a conversation where you've told them, I don't like you. You have held firm in telling them that you are done being the doormat to certain behavior that you don't want to support anymore. And although your voice might be shaky and you're feeling the body shakes, and you're holding on for dear life to this courage that got you to this point, you're able to get through that tension, the defensiveness of the other person. You're able to get through all of that. And at the end of this conversation, even if it was a tough conversation to have for it being tense and defensive, you at the end of this thing feel a sense of relief that you haven't felt before. A ability now to look at what is possible for your life and to have your body feel that energy pouring into yourself, a moment of pride to celebrate that you just did that. And then you may even say, why the hell didn't I start sooner in sharing my truth? This is Make Burnout Extinct podcast. I'm Robert David Weeks. Today, we're getting into the problem of feeling like a doormat, punching bag, the people pleaser. I'm raising my hand because I've been there, and it is something that I've worked on. I, at moments, fall back into this and have to remind myself of to step into courageously sharing what it is I want to say to people. And being able to do that in a respectful way to hold space for the defensiveness that inevitably is going to come from people that you are having conversations with where you're changing the dynamic of the relationship. But in so doing, what it allows for you to feel is an immense amount of relief that I can say from personal experience that you may never have ever experienced before. A sense of energy and surge of energy that helps to propel you forward towards what it is you want in life. And it not only shrinks your chances of burnout, but it builds some fucking awesome confidence within you, that trust within yourself. And that is something that I believe is absolutely worth it to step into that fear of disappointing others. So what I want to do today for you is I want to connect this to burnout so you can understand what's actually going on here with the body, how this connects on a basic level. So, and then from there, I want to go through the experiences of navigating, having those tough conversations, just what comes up for the feelings. So you can prepare for that and acknowledge and be like, oh, okay, I'm headed into the right direction. This is natural to potentially feel this way when I'm stepping into this fear of disappointing others. And then what are some small plays that on the basic level that you could try out that I didn't realize I was doing as plays, but that helped me to navigate these type of moments in my life, and that you could add potentially into your burnout proof playbook that would then help you to reverse direction from fueling burnout to making burnout extinct. So let's get into the connection with burnout. When we give into this fear of disappointing others, and that could be mom, it could be dad, it could be, extended family, uncles, aunts, brothers, sisters, it could be close friends, coworkers. Like, there is someone that comes to mind right away for you of that voice where you are so scared to really express what it is you want to share through your words and just tell it as it is. You are so scared of them judging, of them blaming, of them being disappointed with you. And I get you on that. But what I will tell you is that by choosing to hold back and let that fear take the driver's seat of your life, you then not only start to lose respect for yourself because you're doubting what it is you want to do, and then your actions don't connect to actually doing it. So there creates that self-doubt. When you're second guessing yourself, it's going to then result in anxiety increasing, and you then feel like you don't have control of your decision making. So when that anxiety increases, which then also results in cortisol levels flooding into the body, and from there, our stress levels also increasing to the point where if we have no way of closing this loop because we've given up control of our ability to follow through on what it is we want to do and the words that we want to express, that open loop will always be open and never be able to close. And when we experience this over the course of days to weeks to months, we are then moving towards the first red flag of burnout, which is chronic exhaustion, which then creates a domino effect of hitting the second red flag of negativity because we're experiencing activities and behaviors from other people that drain us and we become that doormat in the punching bag. So it gets us into that negativity. And then having those two red flags happen for us, we're going to hit then the third red flag of terrible performance in our work. And we're headed for the one-way ticket to burnout. Now, when we are able to recognize this and decide that we are going to work on this skill of disappointing others, because I believe it's a skill, by doing that, when we get started, it's gonna be hard. I want to say that to you. It will be hard at the beginning, but as you put in more reps with this, it's going to get a little bit easier and it's going to get a little bit more manageable and bearable to be able to do this. Because you may be thinking, God, there are so many people that I really want to share how I truly feel. And being able to do that in a space of respect with them will be really important to lessen the amount of defensiveness and blowback and all those other side combos that can happen. But to be able to do that with respect, but also to be clear and firm with the boundaries that you're placing. So I want to share what could be certain feelings that can come up. So for me, I that situation, I had to do that. I had to tell someone that I know my entire life I didn't like them, and to courageously step into that. What first had to happen was a decision that I wanted to say something to this person, that I was done being the doormat and the punching bag, and I was done enabling certain behavior that I did not support by being silent. I was being silent and not vocalizing how I felt. So what can happen is at the beginning of doing something like that is a massive charge of energy. You feel tension in the entire body, the spidery tingling moving throughout your body. And so you feel tense, but you know that this is something you want to do. So just acknowledging that awareness that this is something you want to do, say this to this person in a respectful way, and then you're going to feel the tension, realize that that is natural. That will happen. Then the next step for that process is to courageously be able to actually have the conversation. And that causes that's going to have to result in you initiating that conversation. And what can happen in that moment for the courage is that is where fear can get the best of us. And it's happened to me a few times in the past where I wanted to say something and I chose not to. And then you can brush it off of, oh, I'll just sweep it on the rug. Like we'll forget about it. It's not actually that big of a deal. It's just, that's how they are. And I will tell you, every single one of those moments is you chipping away at your own confidence and second guessing yourself and creating this constraint around how you can live your life. And then you aren't looking at possibilities, but you're just looking at how do I just get through the day-to-day life? And that is a miserable life. I know that from personal experience. And it's not something I want you to go through. I want you to be able to move towards what you want in life, to be able to look at the possibilities and to have that excitement and that energy and vibrancy of aliveness as you're moving through life. And it comes with seasons, but to never ever experience that in your life is something I wouldn't want to wish on anyone. It's to even think about that as a possibility makes me sick to think about. So I want you to understand how connected I am to this thing and to realize that I'm in your corner. I absolutely know that you are capable of doing this thing. And I want you to know you're not alone. So We're in this moment where before we're going to initiate the conversation, it's going to be, the fear is going to hit hard. It's going to get into the driver's seat and you're just going to be like, oh, I'll brush it off. It's not a big deal. It's nothing. And it may be right in that moment where someone says something to you and it hits you in the wrong way and it did not feel right. And it actually felt really draining, and you want to be able to communicate something back instead of just being silent. So what happens there, and is to pause. To pause is key. Take a breath, breathe it out. You can even do 3 deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. Going back to my friend Zach Campo with the earth breath. It's a fancy way of just saying breathe in through your nose, breathe out through your mouth. Get it deep, focus in on breathing from your stomach, but just doing those 3 breaths, deep breaths, and then reminding yourself of you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. And then to imagine what it potentially would feel like after this conversation of you saying what it is you want to say to this person. Being able to remember that for your body, to realize that there is, and what's a great way to think about this is to think back to a moment where you felt really alive, where you felt energized, alive. That could be when you were on the playground as a kid, just running around. Could be when you went to the theme park. Could be when you got that awesome idea for the business or for the company that you're working for. Taking that energy and then bringing it into this of that could be the feeling, the energizing feeling after this conversation. Because I will tell you from personal experience, it's energizing. You feel a sense of relief and the weights that have been on your shoulders, they drop. And I will tell you that although they're going to be disappointed, what can happen is most of the time that disappointment is temporary. Where eventually, especially someone, I really love how Mel Robbins puts this, is like someone that loves you can also be disappointed in you, but they're still going to love you. And that will still be there. And so they may come and talk to you. It may be it may be a day and then they get over it. Or it may be a few months or a few years where they don't talk to you, but they may eventually come back. And if they don't, it's realizing that it is not worth that relationship for you to stay constrained, to stay inauthentic in how you are sharing, how you're navigating this world and how you're sharing your voice out into this world. And the reason I say that is because I go back to this book of the top 5 regrets of the dying. And the first one, top of the list, is I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. That expectation could have been put on by mom, could have been put on by dad, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, grandparents, whoever it is that's coming to mind for you. It's not worth it to live an inauthentic version of yourself, of keeping the mask on and just getting by. So when you initiate a conversation, there's going to be a lot of energy moving within your body because now all of a sudden you're recognizing of, oh my, oh shit, I'm about to do this. So it's creating that connection point of, wow, you're actually connecting towards what you want to do and you're actually doing it. So there is a lot of energy moving because of that. So what I want to remind you is to breathe, to always focus on your breath as you navigate this conversation. If that's before asking a question, if that is responding to a question or a statement back. Then what can happen is in that conversation, what happens is inevitably someone is going to get pissed off for when you're having a conversation with them and you're speaking your truth. It could happen because you are changing the dynamic of the relationship now. The habits that they're accustomed to and used to of either taking advantage of you always asking for favors and you honoring it, even though it drains you. Whatever it is for that dynamic, it's changing. And so, of course, there's going to be a reaction from the other end. You can't not expect that. So it's a reminder for you to remember that when you're going into those conversations, that the other person is most likely going to be defensive and is going to want you to stay the same way. But I want to remind you of that, what it is you want in life, the vision, the dreams, the person that you know you want to become, and the voice that you want to share out into the world, and to remind you of that person as you are courageously continuing on to this conversation. And what I can say too is, in that conversation, there may be moments where a person asks you a question that most likely is like trying to dig at you and cause a reaction from you to like get defensive or get pissed off. And I want to remind you, you don't have to answer questions. Like you don't have to answer every single question that someone says. You don't even have to answer a question. If you feel like it's not coming from a genuine curiosity play, like from a place of curiosity and genuinely wanting to understand your point of view, you just don't have to engage with it. I remember for me in the conversation, I was getting into it, and then the other person asked me what my values were, because I told this person that I did not support the behavior because it did not align with my values. And so I in that moment thought, oh, this, like, they're wanting to understand my values. And I started to go through the values, but then what was happening, I was getting attacked. My values were getting attacked and getting nitpicked and all this. And then I literally midway just said, I'm not going down this path. I'm not going down this. I don't feel this is genuine of wanting to understand the values, and I'm just done with this. And that is okay to be able to say and be able to show up as. And you can do that with care. You can do that with respect, but you can be firm and clear in that direction of communicating that. So now, as you go through that conversation, there will be inevitably an endpoint, and it most likely will not be a clean endpoint. It will be just a, I'm done, get up and go. Let that happen. I will say, just let that occur for a conversation, and just let it be. Because whenever we're dealing with unexpected situations that happen and things that we don't like, that feeling of tension and feeling of abruptness naturally occurs. So when you can let that be, what then can happen, and is what I did, is I celebrated the effort. Even if it wasn't like the ideal outcome where I really wanted the person to be able to, like, don't we want to just be like, oh yes, I get it. You're so right. Oh, it's so true. Oh my gosh. Like, I was so wrong and this, and this, and this. Like, that's what we think is going to happen, but it's just not the case. So it's in that moment where we just got to celebrate our effort of stepping into that, doing the damn thing, and we're going to just move on. And then from there, you just let it be. It's one of those moments where it's on to the next, is what you can think about that. And that person can either come back and have another conversation with you, but you've said your piece. And when you can do that, what that happens is you have a enormous amount of relief that washes over you. And you feel so much lighter. It feels like that weight off your shoulders. And then from there, you're able to look at other possibilities of how else can I show up into the world? How else can I then take this energy, this energizing energy, and bring that into my work, bring that into my other relationships, bring that into what it is that I want to create and build in this world. If that's in a business, to another project. So that is the sequence of what can happen in a conversation. And I wanted to take the time to be able to focus in on this. I feel like this is not just one episode, but a few other episodes that comes up with this. But when you are able to celebrate the effort and actually do the damn thing and have that type of conversation with someone directly, what then allows for you to do is you to recognize that what you wanted to say, you actually said it. And for the body, what that creates for a connection within the brain is that you honored your commitment. And that starts that process of trust within yourself. And that's where the building confidence happens, because then when you're able to trust yourself, you're not second guessing constantly your different decisions. And from there, you're able to take that confidence and move that into other areas of life, and to be able to move towards communicating, if that's on social media through video. If you're doing videos on social media, you're able to communicate what it is you want to share, and not having to worry about that voice of that person in the back of your head as much. It's not as loud anymore. And it's not just a quick overnight fix and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, that's so great. You're going to have that initial surge of energy and relief, but then it becomes a practice, and it's a moment where you have to continue to put in those reps over time. So breathing for play is going to be really important. Celebrating yourself for the effort is going to be another really important play that you can add. And then just the awareness of what is energizing for you and what is draining. I've had that the second episode. You can go back to that for understanding what energizes you, what drains you. Just having the awareness of who in my life is draining right now, and then who in my life is energizing. And you can feel that. You know who that is. Like, you don't have to overthink that one. And it's in those moments of realizing, what is it about this person or the behaviors that is draining? What is about these behaviors and person is energizing? And that can be your guide for how you then navigate who you're going to have the conversations with, and sharing your truth. And I recommend start small. What are the ones that you feel it's a challenge? You're in the challenge zone, but the one that feels the easiest to have a conversation with, if it's a person to about a certain topic, who is that? And start there. And then from there, build from that point. And I want to remind you, going back to the Lisa Nichols quote here, that communication, it is the distance between you and everything you want. And I want to remind you that you have an opportunity here in this moment, after this conversation, this episode's done, to be able to have that conversation with a person, and to be able to have a moment of courage right now that you're holding on to step into that and do it. And I want to tell you, you are capable of doing that in this next day, in these next few days, to be able to step into that and to start that momentum. And it's going to be hard at the beginning, but it is going to be rewarding of how the relief that can be felt when that happens. And it may not be right away, but later on, you're constantly filling up the bucket of confidence for yourself. And in doing that, you are moving away from fueling burnout and moving towards making burnout extinct in your life. If you like this episode, please don't forget to rate this podcast to help get this message out of make burnout extinct. And you can share what resonates with you from this episode by connecting with me on Instagram or LinkedIn. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode. I don't take that for granted. Excited to reconnect again soon. And you got this.